This is Zestology, the podcast all about energy and vitality on a cold, blustery, wintry day down by the River Thames in London. It's not actually that nice, but it is nice being by the river and getting a bit of nature. And there appears to be a metal detector down on the beach. I mean, what does he think he's going to find? Maybe hidden gold. Yeah, there's a kind of beach here in West London when the tide goes out. And it is beautiful, even on a cold day like this. And enough of my surroundings. I've got something to tell you about what happened last night, because last night my friend James sent me a video of two young ping pong players and an incredible rally. And it was an amazing rally. It lasted about a minute and a half. And I watched it and loved it. And then half an hour later, I realised that I had not only watched that, I'd also watched a whole load of other videos on Facebook. I never watch videos on Facebook, including a 10-minute video of a bailiff being told off by a police officer. If that's not tech addiction, I don't know what is. And in this podcast, we look at 3 tech toxins with the excellent August Brice. She's so good. I've been following her on Instagram for ages. Her account Tech Wellness comes up with so many good suggestions, simple suggestions, but effective for reducing your kind of tech overload. And the 3 tech toxins we look at today on this podcast are addiction, so a kind of a dependency on our screens. And maybe just kind of getting sucked in like I did last night on Facebook videos. I didn't even know Facebook videos was a thing. It's like a whole channel of bailiffs getting told off by police officers. They obviously know I like that kind of video. Tech toxin 2 is radiation and blue light. And apparently there's now more cell phones than people on Earth. And we're just surrounded by this blue glow of light in the evenings. And we need to do something about it. And August's 3rd tech toxin is privacy stealers. What happens to your privacy when you're spending all this time online? Our personal information, where we go online, what we say or do while we're there, can be stored and shared. So what are you doing with your personal information? There's some excellent stuff on browsers as well that I enjoyed with August. She's brilliant. I hope you enjoy this. If you're someone who every once in a while spends 10 minutes watching a video of a bailiff getting told off by a police officer, I think you'll like this podcast. Enjoy. Here she is, August Brice on Zestology.
There are so many really good reasons to be mindful of our technology, but we cover all of the reasons. We talk about privacy and cybersecurity. We talk about blue light and EMF and other health effects of our phones. And we also talk about the social and emotional implications, like our self-esteem issues when it comes to being on social media so much. So we cover all of the reasons that it's important to pay attention to the way we interact with technology.
Yeah,
that's tech wellness.
I mean, that totally resonates with me. And I probably when we first started getting smartphones, I think I first got mine in like 2009. We probably didn't even realize that we needed this stuff, did we?
No, not at all. And, it was interesting because the reason that I started this, it was my journey with my smartphone that I actually got 30 years ago. And the first time I held a cell phone, I could feel the energy from the phone. And it's actually on a video, believe it or not. My daughter found it this year. She said, because we digitized all of our videos from 30 years ago, and she was a year old, and I received the gift from my husband of my very first cell phone. I open it up. I go, what is it? He said, it's a cell phone. I said, isn't it supposed to be in the car? He goes, no, here, dial your mom. And as I did, you see me go like this, and I shake.
Oh my God.
And I feel, I get shocked by the energy. I'm super sensitive. And so that EMF sensitivity led me to have a different relationship. My reluctance to embrace wireless technology because of the sensitivity and because I could feel the energy and it didn't feel good allowed me to see how friends and family started interacting with their phones and how some of them looked at their phone as though it was an actual being, as though it was human, or as though it was part of themselves, how they became distracted and so connected with their phones that they started ignoring the real world. So then that led me to want to talk to people and offer various solutions, especially for the EMF sensitivity. So I looked into the one thing that works, and the one thing that's absolutely proven to help you is distance from your device if you have EMF sensitivity. And actually, it's estimated that between 3 and 8% of the population actually has sensitivity. So anyway, I started selling headphones on the website.
How far from the, what distance?
Okay, so it dissipates very, very nicely between 8 and 10 inches. And now that's not the best, but it does dissipate enough so that you're not really getting the direct EMF. There's so much ambient EMF that I need to be about 3 feet from my phone because I'm sensitive and I can feel it. And they still haven't discovered a safe level of exposure. We really don't know what the safe level is. So the further away, the better. But anyway, I wanted to get into why I talk about privacy as well.
Yeah.
And that's because years ago, I started a website and I was selling AirTube headsets. And I noticed that I could see when people who bought revisited my site, and I could see the pages that they were going to, and I could see their name and their phone number and their credit card. And this absolutely made me so uneasy that I held a big meeting at the office and I showed everyone, hey, look what happens when you go to a website. This was 10 years ago. And during the meeting, 3 guys that worked got up and went to their computers. I think everyone started realizing, oh my goodness, there's no privacy guarantee when it comes to being online. So then I wanted to start talking to people about privacy and the implications that sharing could have on our lives. So that's why we cover all 3 aspects at Tech Wellness.
Yeah, I mean, I think, and they kind of interlink as well, don't they? Certainly, I think the issue of kind of privacy is something that I've kind of long thought about and not felt particularly comfortable about. But also technology brings so many benefits. For example, I don't really like the fact that Google knows every time I use Maps where I go, but I also quite like using Google Maps, if you see what I mean.
Right. So yes, of course, it's a give and take. And so when I use Google Maps, I log in, I get my directions, I set up the tracking. And then as soon as I stop, I log off and I delete all the information that was tracked about me. So there are ways to work with it so that we can still have the benefits. Yeah. But, I really love the new European law. You guys were so ahead of it. The data protection regulation.
Yeah, GDPR. Yeah.
I love it because I actually have my website on an international platform. So I am able to ask that all the information about all of my customers is deleted 6 months after they make a purchase. And I do. I delete all of my customers' information because I think, why do I need that? If they want to come back and make a purchase, that's up to them. And if they want to hear from me, it's their decision. So before I delete it, I send them a letter letting them know that I'm about to delete their information and they can choose not to. So far, only one person in thousands has actually asked me not to delete their information.
Yeah.
So I hope that more people follow suit, right?
Yeah. So in terms of just one other thing on privacy, and then we'll get into kind of I think where it's really relevant with Tech Wellness is the kind of the way that it intrudes on your brain, on your mind on a day-to-day basis. But just one other thing on privacy, I've been following one of your tips, which I really enjoyed, was Googling 5 fake searches a day. It's such a good idea. And you heard this from someone else, didn't you?
No, actually, yes, I did, which was awesome. But before then, my family thought it was just hysterical that I would actually go on Google and I would do fake searches about, I'd look around the house, and I'd say palm tree. And then I'd get all into palm trees. And I'd say, porcelain vase. And I'd start Googling and just not even look at it really. And I'd go in and maybe I'd go deep into the search and maybe I wouldn't. And I said, I just understand that Google and many other people, Facebook too, are creating these online dossiers, and they're trying to get into our minds eventually, I think, to not just sell us stuff. That's one phase, and honestly, like you said earlier, that's not the worst of it. The worst of it is being manipulated. Like as was shown with the Cambridge Analytica scandal,
Yeah.
and manipulated because emotionally they started figuring out, they started putting all these touch points together and tried to figure out who we really were and what would motivate us. So I just throw them off a little. So everyone thought that was pretty funny, that knew me and knew that I did it. But one night I was talking to one of the top 5 IT companies in the world, technology companies in the world. And I was having dinner with their head of cybersecurity. And we were just talking personally. I said, now we were talking about professionally all the difficult things of, maintaining privacy in this huge company. And I said, well, what do you do personally? And she said, you know what I do? Every night I do 5 fake searches. And I said, oh my gosh, so do I.
Yeah.
That is hysterical. And at the time, I actually hadn't counted how many searches I did. I just would every day go online and just have fun. And so anyway, yes, that's where that comes from. And actually, I really think it's a strategy that accomplishes what I want it to accomplish. And that is, you just don't know me as well as you think you know me.
I think it's an excellent idea. I really do. And yeah, as you say, it's not just Google. There's many things I like about Google. It's all these technology companies are building up huge kind of caches of information about us. And as we've seen with Cambridge Analytica, and by the way, that film on Netflix about Cambridge Analytica is unbelievable.
Isn't it?
The
Absolutely,
way that
I recommend it.
Yeah, and Facebook they've openly admitted that they made a mistake in trying to manipulate people's mood and make them feel more positive or negative.
Yes.
And they can do it.
Yes.
So yeah, I think it's an excellent idea to do that.
Well, and also, talking about Facebook, they've told us all along what they're doing. If you read their privacy policy, or privacy, as you say, and I love hearing that said that way, it makes it not sound as scary. But if you read their privacy policy, they tell you that they're collecting everything that you do. And one thing that they don't actually tell you, but there was this research study from 2013 where a Facebook employee and a Carnegie Mellon intern got together and did a study on thought better of. And what they did is they analyzed all of the Facebook posts that were never posted, just what you typed before you deleted it. And it's called thought better of. Yes, right? Now the results were, yes. It's very true. I have it on my website. I actually reached out to one of the researchers, and he said, now, that's actually been a bit misconstrued because we actually didn't see the words. When Facebook gave us the deleted posts, they just gave us characters. So we could map the character with, say, a woman 50 years old, a guy 22 years old, and see when they deleted, how much they wrote before they deleted the post, and who thought better of. And basically the answer is, who thinks better of? Young men delete more than older women.
Right.
Women write and just go, heck, I'm posting this. I don't, I'm not going to go back and analyze what I said before I posted. So, but what the researcher was telling me was they had, i.e. Facebook does have the words. They don't have the characters. They have the actual words you wrote archived somewhere before you deleted them. And that's same with Google. So when you're on, and I have a video, I don't know if you've ever seen it, about Gmail, and many companies use the Gmail interface. And when you do, you get something called Google Vault. And Google Vault allows you to see every word that someone typed before they deleted it in the form of a draft. So what it tells us is that information is out there. And that's very unsettling, isn't it?
It is, yeah. I mean, I cannot imagine that virtually anyone listening to this podcast would imagine that takes place.
It does.
It's terrifying.
It is.
There's something that, I mean, just on that score, I was listening to a podcast. It's a British podcast called Today in Focus, and it's a kind of Guardian news podcast. And they were talking to the Guardian tech correspondent who was talking about Google and talking about the pros and cons of using Google services. And then at the end of the podcast, the presenter asked him, so what do you use for your search engine? And he said, I don't use Google, I use DuckDuckGo. So I started using that recently as well, just in the last couple of weeks, really, because of some of a lot of what you told me, I didn't even know. But because of some of the things you told me, I thought, well, they are outwardly not keeping anything in terms of your data. They value your privacy. That's what they say. Do you think DuckDuckGo is actually kind of a better option?
Yes, I used DuckDuckGo for several years, and
Yeah.
I recommend them on my cookie blog post, and also in a cookie video that I did to help people understand what cookies were and how they track us. Right now, I'm using StartPage. So DuckDuckGo, StartPage. I think StartPage is a little prettier, but I used DuckDuckGo for years, and I totally recommend them. So good for you.
Yeah.
Do you find it as not a great user experience?
Quite as good. It's just not. I've got more privacy, and it's not quite as good. I tell you what, you realise how quick Google is when you use DuckDuckGo, and there's just a split second before it delivers your results, and they're not quite as. Look, I mean, that's why Google are Google, isn't it? Google is amazing, but I'll have a look at StartPage as well.
Yes, Google is amazing. And they're very proud of their ability to save your emails. And in fact, in the policy, in the Google Vault policy, they save your emails for up to 100 years.
Right, yeah. And I don't want this to be like, there might be people from Google listening to this. I don't want it to be Google bashing. That's probably. I don't think it. I don't think you are. And I don't want I don't want to be considered as that as well. It's just that I really like using Google products and services, and I like my own privacy. So where I can kind of take measures to kind of protect that, then that's good.
And, Google allows you a certain amount of privacy if you go to your settings. And I have this on the site too. They let you control a lot of what's saved through your activity. The only thing about that is I'm not sure if Google is still saving it, but it's just not on your personal account information, because obviously they see it. Yeah. My husband was very disconcerted the other day when he went on, as I advised him to, look at it, and he found every purchase that he has made for the last 10 years in his Google activity. And it is a setting. And so what it really meant was Google was looking through his emails to see when he had a purchase confirmation. And he saw every single thing he purchased in the last 10 years, and he turned that off.
That's extraordinary, isn't it? And I think one of the things about Gmail is, I've actually never used Gmail. I use an Apple mail address, who make a big thing of the fact that their privacy settings might be slightly more robust than Google.
And I think I love that Apple does that, and I love that they care about privacy. I think that it's the Apple universe collects the information for the Apple universe. Yeah. They're not sharing it the way that Facebook does, but it doesn't mean that they don't have it either. And yes, I'm a huge Apple product fan, and I appreciate that they're at least thinking about it. Yeah. But they tell us, we just found out that they were analyzing Siri recordings. They hired people to analyze Siri recordings. So we shouldn't have a false sense of security. We should still be mindful. And that's really what I like to talk about at Tech Wellness. Just, you don't have to give your microphone to everybody who wants it. You don't have to give it to that app. You can turn Siri off. You can use Siri and turn Siri on when you need it, and then be mindful to turn it off. It's pretty simple.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's move on to the kind of tech wellness stuff then. It's a great irony, isn't it, that I came to your work through Instagram, and that is a tech platform, and you're talking about tech wellness. And I know that, one of the things that you're constantly told is, if you want to make the most of your podcast, you want to promote it the most, you got to post loads on social media. But to be quite honest, I find it takes ages to post on social media, and I actually feel like I'm kind of more happy when I'm not using it.
I love that.
Yeah, it's quite a kind of contradiction when you're trying to build a business at the same time, though, isn't it?
No, it's scientifically proven that you are feeling better. You have better self-esteem. You're more confident when you're not on social media. And that's why you're right. It's sort of ironic that you found me through Instagram, and I give these messages on Instagram. I encourage everyone to do a daily, weekly, or even annual detox unplug, meaning every Saturday. Oh, it'd be wonderful just to log off for 24 hours and see the difference it makes in your life. It's amazing. You start seeing things differently. The texture of the air feels different. The ground feels different. You just feel so much more in touch with, our natural universe, because it's three-dimensional. And sometimes we get onto our phones and we get into this one-dimensional, very exciting, very stimulating world that just isn't completely real. So anyway, I try to balance my tech use with every day, I do go on social media for about a half an hour. That's it. Just 30 minutes. And that works for me. Maybe somebody else needs to go on an hour. Maybe somebody needs to go on once every half hour for 5 minutes. It's just the idea of being mindful to know how it makes you feel. So,
I mean, I think that's, look, having a day off is just amazing. And funnily enough, I did that for the first time in ages last weekend. And it makes you feel like you've got more time in your day as well, which is great. And certainly kind of pushes any peripheral worries to the sidelines as well.
No, you're very right.
Yeah.
That whole concept of being here now absolutely does slow down time, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Good observation.
But when it comes to doing, say, half an hour a day of social media, sometimes I think these apps and devices, but specifically the apps, the kind of software, it's so addictive. You know, we know that Facebook, for example, I've heard, some really interesting behavioral science that Facebook have used around the addictiveness of their platforms. And we know that on the other side of the screen, there are thousands of developers working very hard to get us to use Facebook or whatever app it might be as long as possible. So sometimes it's hard when it gets to 29 minutes in your day to put it down, isn't it?
It is. But once you do it, in fact, I was talking to a 9-year-old boy yesterday who honestly over the summer was gaming 24 hours a day. I talked to his mom and I said he absolutely needs a 30-day detox. They completed the detox. I spoke with him yesterday and he now understands it completely. And for the rest of his life, he is going to be so aware. And now what they do is he gets a half an hour of gaming every Saturday after he does his chores. And, Dr. Kimberly Young, she was my very first expert on internet addiction, and she actually coined the term internet addiction in the 90s. And she brought it to the American Psychological Association and asked that they include it as a diagnosis, and they still haven't. But she became very aware of the addictive capacity of technology right away. And she recommended a digital diet, basically thinking of technology like the dessert in our lives when we're on social media. Now, when we're, emailing somebody or researching something, she put that in a different category. But basically, she said, you eat your meat, you eat your fruits and vegetables. Think of social media as the sugar in your diet. Just have a little bit of it.
Yeah, that's excellent advice. I interviewed Linda Stone. Have you heard of Linda Stone? I'm sure you have. Yeah,
yes,
she's excellent, isn't she? And she coined this term, continuous partial attention, which I think is very relevant. And I think that, technology massively contributes to that.
Well, there's this great distraction study done out of the University of Texas where they took 900 students and they had them do simple tasks on the computer. They put their phone upside down and turned off right on the desk. And then they did the same study with the phone on the other side of the room. Then they did the same study with the phone outside and in a container. When the phone was right next to them, if they were heavily dependent on their phones, they lost up to 30% of their cognitive abilities because your brain can only have so much capacity. So there was just fewer resources for other tasks, and it undercut the cognitive capacity just by the mere presence of the phone. That's basically what you're talking about.
Yeah. So they had partial attention and they weren't even on their phones at the time.
And it wasn't, and they weren't even on. The phones were off and silenced.
Wow.
Isn't that something?
Yeah.
Yes.
So in terms of this problem of partial attention, which I think, I've always been quite proud of the fact I'm definitely not a very good multitasker. I'm good at doing one thing at once, and that's about it. And I notice for me, like as time goes on, I become less good at immersing myself in something without my mind wandering. What are some of the other things that you kind of talk about to actually help us maintain and regain that sense of focus?
Well, I have an article all about digital dementia, and Manfred Spitzer wrote a whole book on it, and I really love some of his ideas for focus. One of them is just to listen to music. Another, to be out in nature. And I think you do this, Tony. I think that every day you're out in nature and you're meditating in some way or another. I've heard you talk about it on your podcast.
Yeah.
That's incredibly...
I probably should put the slight disclaimer that it's probably 6 days out of 7 rather than 7 days out of 7. But I'm doing my best.
Good for you.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I actually go out every day and I take my vitamin G, my grounding. And so I actually walk on the beach. Yeah. Because earthing means living in contact with the Earth's natural surface charge. So the Earth has this, electricity, and being grounded naturally discharges and prevents chronic inflammation. And it really helps me when I do my walk to also do my mindfulness meditation. And so I try to think of 10 things that I'm grateful for, and then I just continually repeat them as I walk. So I think that's a power-packed idea for staying connected. And another thing for just really just tactical things that we do, at our office when we have meetings, we put our phones in a basket. Our phones stay out of the meeting so that we can all connect and we won't be distracted. And I just put up a video yesterday of how some of the people in the office feel about it. And I was so surprised when I interviewed them. They all felt actually really great about it. And they're all millennials. So that was very encouraging.
Yeah, because we all know that when people pretend to be kind of taking notes or doing something important in a meeting on their phone, they're actually looking at Facebook anyway. So come on.
Actually, 53% of people in a workplace study done by Udemy last year admitted that when they were on their phones, they were looking at Facebook, 53%. So you're right. Yeah. Did you see that study?
I didn't, but it creeps into every area of life, doesn't it? Because I know one of your posts recently was about working out with your phone on airplane mode. And I know when I work out and my phone is not in airplane mode, it's a worse workout, but it's a more distracted, less connected and less enjoyable experience as well.
Have you not cleared your front screen so that you don't see notifications or apps?
Oh, yeah, I have done that, actually, funnily enough. But my mind is addicted enough to knowing the latest news or maybe just checking my email or whatever it might be to just kind of, before you know it, you're in. So
right, it really is. Yeah. It really, it's a practice, isn't it?
Yes.
Just like actually taking the time to meditate as a practice, actually taking the time to manage your phone so that it doesn't manage you is a practice.
Yeah. Just interrupting this podcast for one moment to remind you that it's brought to you by Sunlighten Saunas, an ultra-low EMF sauna with Netflix in it. Does it get any better? It's really nice for these winter days, get into the sauna, and what I love about the infrared sauna is it's all backed up by a rigorous amount of scientific research that shows that it is excellent for everything from heart health and heart rate variability to detox and relaxation. I've certainly found with my Oura Ring stats that my sleep gets a lot better and deeper, and my heart rate variability seems to get better as well, and I can also feel myself detox in it. I'm actually not going in the sauna for that long at the moment because I'm taking it slowly, because I can tell that it's working and I don't want to over detox, if that makes sense. Yeah, it's just so great to have the Sunlighten sauna, and it's an especially good hack in winter, I think. Mention Zestology to get $200 or £200 off at Sunlighten Saunas. And now back to the show. I think it's interesting that, I feel very grateful that my kind of childhood years and growing up in university as well, we didn't have smartphones and we didn't have technology like this. There's a big article in the papers today about a load of footballers who went out and one of them filmed another one being sick or something like that, to which you think, why on earth would you ever film someone else or let someone film you? But of course, that's what happens with technology, and actually it changes the way that you behave, doesn't it? We don't really know the long-term impacts about the effects on our society, but also us as individuals.
That's really a great point, because there actually are studies about empathy. And UCLA did a study about 7 years ago where they noticed that the critical factor that they were seeing in these teenagers and teenage youth that they did the study on was a lack of empathy. And I think that's what you're talking about. Yeah. And then they went camping for 5 days without their technology, and their empathy scores went way up. And, you know, I have to tell you that now that you're talking about this in kids, I work with Dr. Terrell, who is an internet addiction researcher here locally at a university. And he put together this amazing graph of how screen use has even taking out computer at school use. So he took that out. Yeah. And there's a graph, and it shows that as screen use goes up, the kids report the joy of being alive goes down. I mean, it actually makes me want to cry.
That's really sad. Yeah.
Isn't that sad? The joy of being alive. Exercise and sleep went down. Dating, attending parties, socializing with friends, down.
Yeah.
So I really think it's a rally call for parents to set... Excuse me.
Bless you. Don't worry.
I really think it's a rally call for parents to set up healthy boundaries for their kids and just offer them a lot of guidance for the well-being of their children, because clearly interacting with technology is having a huge effect, as you're alluding to, on so many things in our society. Yeah. So we really, really need to be mindful.
And I know you've got loads of tips in loads of areas, some of which I do anyway, some of which I've picked up from you. I mean, certainly the kind of the blue light in the evenings, you know, using the blue blocking glasses. And we've got these great plug-in lights as well, which are just kind of blue light blocked, and they're just kind of very low kind of night lights, nice if you've got kids, and they're just a really nice light around the house as well. So
good. I know exactly what you're talking about. They have more of an amber tone.
Yeah.
So important, because, you know, they've even studied that the blue light can get into our eyes while our lids are closed.
Yes, I know. Yeah.
It's that dramatic. And of course, you know that it has an effect on your melatonin, and your melatonin affects your circadian rhythms and your very healthy sleep cycle.
Yeah.
So I'm all about, I mean, I've got my orange glasses right here. See?
Yes.
Orange glasses.
You've got a particularly stylish pair there, haven't you?
You know, so funny. So I was at this gala, and Dave Asprey and Joe Mercola were there, and they were wearing their really fashionable orange glasses.
Yeah.
And I was wearing mine. Mine are very functional. Dr. Mercola pointed them out. I said, gosh, I love your glasses.
Yeah.
And he said, well, yours are really quite functional. I said, yes, they are. And you see, they are, because they wrap around, and it's actually important.
That's good.
Because you're not just getting the blue light, you know, from what you're looking at in front, you're getting it from around your, you know, the sides too.
Yeah.
And I really like these because they're affordable, and you can put them all over the house. You can put them in your office, you can put them in the TV room, so that you'll always have the protection that you need, at least after 6 p.m. And sometimes during the day, because you know what I like to explain about this blue light that's coming from our screens? Imagine if it was a gorgeous sunny day in London, and I know you have them sometimes, and it was bright and blue and beautiful, and you just stood out there and stared at it for even 2 hours, stared at the blue.
Yeah.
That would actually start to bother you, right?
Yeah, it would. Yeah.
You'd have eye strain. And so the orange glasses also just relax your eyes and prevent the eye strain, as well as help your melatonin production.
You look like a kind of a stylish lab technician right now.
Thank you. There's like also a really cute
Bono and a lab technician.
Oh, that's not bad. I'll take that.
Yeah. Now, something I haven't actually seen on your site, but something I went through was having the baby and trying to find tech that suited the baby, you know, in terms of the amount of electromagnetic fields that are kind of delivered through a lot of this technology. And one of the things that I read about, I found quite hard to kind of decipher what would work and what wouldn't, was baby monitors. And I've just seen on your Instagram before we started talking that you've done a bit of a detector test. Well, I bought a very low tech baby monitor, which actually doesn't work that well, but at least there's no EMFs going on, or at least I don't think. But I'd love to kind of check out that test that you did in more detail and see what you make of wireless baby monitors and EMFs.
Well, of course, the more sophisticated ones with the cameras and the microphones, they're giving off the same EMF as, in some cases, your Wi-Fi, or at the very least, your smartphone. Yeah. So that's not good to have in the baby's room, or it's also not good to have in your room. I have looked at all of them, even the audio monitors, and I have
Right.
been shocked at the amount of energy that they're giving out.
Really?
So, yeah, I have a do-it-yourself hack
Yeah.
that I recommend, and I walk people through it. I show them how to set up these D-Link cameras, that they're security cameras, and you go in
Yeah.
manually and you turn off Wi-Fi, and then you put the wires, and the wires actually go through your home wiring.
Yeah.
And there will be a little bit of dirty electricity, but one of my experts on my side is the president of the International Association of Building Biologists. And his opinion is it's so much safer than being exposed to the RF radiation.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's, I'm pretty sure now I think of it, this is how I found you in the first place, because I
You like
spent
it?
ages researching these kind of low EMF monitors, and I saw that. I'm pretty sure I've seen that hack, and it seemed like a bit too much like hard work. I'm not a very technical person. I think I might struggle with it, but maybe I need to come back to it.
Well, guess what?
Yeah.
I do a video, and because my husband and I set it up together in
Yeah.
the house to see how difficult it was. You know what? It really wasn't that difficult.
Okay, great. Yeah.
If you look at the 10 steps that you have to do and just
Yeah.
all at once, it can be, a little bit scary. But if you just watch the video and do it step by step, it's pretty easy. And
Right.
but so with your monitor, do you have it out of his room? Do you have it as far away from him as possible?
We have it in his room, as far away from him as possible. It's an analog radio
Yes.
monitor, so it's
Yes.
kind of, it's called Hartig and Helling. I don't know if
Oh.
you've heard of that one, but it's like,
No.
I mean, it's actually quite hard to get, and it's supposedly very, very low EMF. Yeah, it doesn't work particularly well, but yeah, it's as far away from his head as possible,
Okay.
and it's in his room. Yeah, so it's the
Good.
Hartig and Helling digital baby call device. Very
good.
low,
I'll
and they
check it
describe it as very low radiation. There's another one actually that I heard about over the last couple of days. Are there any ones that you'd recommend, or is it just the hack?
It's just the hack because
Yeah.
I was so excited, and I tried the Angel Care audio only, and I've got the video up, and it was very disappointing. So
Oh no, that's what I was going to mention. The Angel Care.
yes, no.
You're joking.
I have no, I'm not. I'm sorry.
Oh, no.
It's, okay. So at least it doesn't have the video, and the video maybe changes the texture of the wave. This
Yeah.
hasn't been proven, but just intuitively it makes sense. But there's definitely, if you're concerned about measurable EMF,
Yeah.
you will see that the measurable EMF is quite strong. And
Yeah.
I think the best thing that you can do, though, just like when you're holding the baby and you have the phone in your hand, is make sure that phone's in airplane and not near the baby. Make sure Wi-Fi is off and Bluetooth's off. Those are other considerations that I think we might forget about. But if you get probably 10 to 15 feet away from those baby monitors, the level of EMF decreases quite a bit. So it becomes safer.
Yeah, yeah. And I think, and all that is really good. And, it's something that I kind of always feel like I'm quite aware of. And then people probably, I think even my partner just thinks I'm banging on about it a bit. But in general, it does seem, she's definitely on board as well. So,
Good.
Now,
Good.
there was a couple that I actually did find. And I found one that looked quite good. It's called Safety First Crystal Clear and an audio monitor, and it's 49 megahertz analog, which apparently is very low.
That does sound low, and I'll be happy to get it and try it. And of course,
Yeah.
I think manufacturers are seeing people's concern, and it's just a matter of time
Yeah.
before something's produced that we're,
Yeah. Yeah.
can all feel really, really good about. But obviously, the ones that are right over the crib, and the
Yeah.
camera shoots down and presents this gorgeous picture of your baby.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah.
like in a little frame,
Yeah.
and they're laying in their crib, and it's just so delicious. Of
Yeah.
course, you'd want that, right?
Yeah.
But think about it. That RF camera is probably within 2 feet of the baby.
Yeah.
So that's probably the bigger concern,
Yes. Yeah.
honestly.
And funnily enough, when you talk about the the distraction element of tech as well. My mum bought her video monitor around for a night, and I think we had people around, so it was a bit hard to hear the audio monitor. So we used the video monitor, and all we did was look at the camera all night. Yes. So it was kind of really distracting from the evening that we were having. So that didn't really work either. So,
right.
Yeah.
Right. And that's true. There's that Owlet baby monitor, which of course I don't recommend, that goes on the baby's foot.
The Owlet. I mean, this is unbelievable. It's actually on the baby, and is it Wi-Fi?
It is Bluetooth, but you have to be you have to be in close proximity to your Wi-Fi to connect to the Bluetooth.
Yeah.
So then the Wi-Fi can connect to your phone.
Yeah.
And talk about distraction. I've been around moms who are using it, and they're so excited because, of course, they want the best for their baby.
Yeah.
Of course, every mom, it's so enticing, right?
Yes.
And dad. But I've seen moms be just hit with all these notifications. The baby's moving. The baby's heart rate changed slightly. The baby's moving. The baby's moving. Just all these notifications, and they're so distracted that it would be better just to have the baby sleeping right next to them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and it's just, I don't know. I'm just wondering, you probably know better as a parent what that would be like to have your baby in the other room and be looking at a constant stream of notifications, checking oxygenation and heart rate.
Yeah.
And it's constant.
Well, I mean, yeah, it is enticing. I remember thinking, I mean, especially like respiration, just to know that the baby's breathing.
Yes.
And actually, we found this incredible device that doesn't have any EMFs, and it's just straps on the nappy and makes a little sound every time. So when they're first born, that's the snoozer. Yeah, and great bit of kit, and it's medically certified and all the rest of it.
We have a video.
Yeah, do you? Do you know what? I need to have a really good look around your site. This is great.
My little baby section.
Yeah.
Yes, I love the snoozer. Just be really careful that you don't get the advanced snoozer that now has Bluetooth.
Oh, okay. Yeah. No, we definitely don't have the advanced one. But that's interesting. And then, tracking devices is something that I've looked into a lot. And, I wear one of these Oura rings. Which I like a lot because you can put into airplane mode, which is great. Awesome. They said, because I know the guys at Oura, and they said it actually was a tough technological workaround to work out how to put a device in airplane mode and then take it out again. There's not that many trackers that you can put in airplane mode. A lot of them, though, they don't operate on Wi-Fi. They operate on Bluetooth. Now,
correct.
I personally think even if it's Bluetooth, you don't want to be wearing something 24 hours a day that is sending a signal out to other people. But what do you think about that? Are there any real dangers of wearing something with Bluetooth on it?
There haven't really been any scientific studies proving it either way when you're just isolating Bluetooth. I am sensitive, and so I actually get like a piercing headache when I'm around something that just has Bluetooth. And so fortunately, I can feel it, so I know turn that Bluetooth off. And so I walk around when I'm in an environment with wireless, and then I can just really sense that an item has Bluetooth, and I know it doesn't agree with the electricity of my body. We're electrical beings.
Yeah.
That's why the whole idea of grounding works. That's why these electrical frequencies have an effect on our bodies. Now, just because someone doesn't feel them doesn't mean that there isn't an effect. And scientists are still trying to figure out how exactly they affect our bodies. They see associations in over 2,000 peer-reviewed research studies that show that there are various illnesses that correlate to high EMF exposure. And so they're not really certain how it happens. Magda Havas, who's an amazing person who talks a lot about EHS and also about EMF exposures, believes that it's that we create more oxidative stress on the body.
Oh, yeah.
And then that can lead to various states of disease. So that alone. So I have always said it feels to me like just another toxin in my environment that I feel better when I avoid.
Yeah.
Same with chemicals. Same with processed food. Yeah. It just, having a sensitive, physical body helps me feel when something is absolutely wrong for me.
That's great. You're the canary in the coal mine, aren't you?
Yes, I am. And it was first Dr. Carlo who explained that to me, because I was trying to figure out why everyone couldn't feel what I was feeling.
Yeah.
And so I found him. He wrote this amazing book. He did a big study and then backed out of the study, and for the cell phone industry here, when he discovered that there was this big correlation to brain cancers in these mice. And so anyway, he wrote the book in the late 90s. I found the book. I contacted him, and I was telling him about, this feeling that I had. And he said, that's not such a great thing. That's actually electromagnetic hypersensitivity. And it's happens with some people, and we're not really certain why, but you are one of the canaries in the coal mine. Yeah. And that's the benefit to feeling it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you know what I do to actually make myself feel better? I do my grounding. I do my daily walks. I do my meditation. I do take a lot of antioxidants, and I exercise probably 5 days a week. And so I think that we would all do better just to fortify our health against so many of the various environmental toxins in our environment.
Yeah, I think that is something for people to remember. Actually, if you are going through health challenges, sometimes if you were perfect, like felt absolutely fine, you probably wouldn't do all that stuff, would you? You wouldn't go to the gym 5 times a week. You wouldn't go earthing and grounding and all that. Get a bit of vitamin G in the morning. You wouldn't do any of that. So actually, it's in some ways it's a blessing, even though it might always seem like that at the time. And just one more thing on the trackers. Have you looked at trackers at all?
Oh, you mean
tracking devices, so like a Garmin or a Fitbit. Yeah,
Fitbit. Yes. One of the most highly trafficked pages on my site is the Fitbit alternative. And I discovered this because there was someone that I was working with that was having heart issues. And I said, hey, do you think it might be that Fitbit that you wear every day? And he said, I don't know. And I showed him, just the RF levels coming from the Fitbit. And then I started looking into alternatives for him, and I did find one that you can disable Bluetooth, and it is the Garmin. Yeah. And so I do recommend it. Yeah. And he has gone to not wearing any kind of fitness tracker. Yeah. And I think just like the Muse headband, are you familiar with that? It helps you understand when you're in the meditative state. Yeah. I think turning on a Fitbit, borrowing someone's, using it for a day or two isn't going to cause extensive harm. I think it's the cumulative effect of using it every day. So if you want to use a Muse and figure out if you're meditating correctly, if you want to use a Fitbit and just get all the metrics that you're looking for to know about your health state and how different things affect your health state, I think you should try it, and then don't use it on a daily basis. I think we just need to be mindful that
I am still using mine on a daily basis, but it's in airplane mode. So
that's great. And so, what do you use?
Well, I use the Oura ring. Yeah,
right. Great alternative.
Yeah, so good. I'll check it. I normally check it in the morning. And there's all sorts of sleep stats, and then it's forgotten for the day. But actually, you don't really need the stats in the end. But sometimes it's fun.
Maybe take it off and just wear it once a week.
Yeah, I could do. Yeah. But that's a step too far, August, for me at the moment. Let's make changes one step at a time. Now, before I go, I want to ask you something I've asked lots of people. I'm sure you've heard me ask it before. What is one book that you would recommend and one tip for living with more energy and vitality?
You know what? There is one book that I'm reading now by Dr. Bill Sears. And you might have heard of him because he's the father of attachment parenting. The whole wear your baby movement.
Right, okay.
And he was at the births of both of my children.
He's
way. Here. Yes, I heard him on the radio, so I called him. And then I interviewed him to be my pediatrician. And my girls, is that crazy?
That's so great.
So we're still in touch. And he just released his 43rd book. And it's called T5, Dr. Sears Transformation for 5 Things to Do in Your Life in 5 Weeks. And I've just really enjoyed it. I really honestly didn't think that I would get new information, but I have. He talks about this Nobel Prize winning study of your endothelium, which is the lining of your blood vessels. And, we all know that high cholesterol and all that can can, get the sticky stuff in our blood vessels. And we know that that's bad, but we didn't understand really why it's bad. Well, the blood vessels actually are delivering great internal medicines to lower your blood pressure and to fight various disease. And so that was a fascinating thing to learn. And then one other thing is floating meditation. He talks about, and this makes sense, right? Your body is in the water, you're floating, and he just does this in the pool. And with every stroke, you express something that you're grateful for.
Okay.
Or you do your mantra.
Yeah.
And the body, there's just no pressure because you're sustained in the water. And I've been doing this, and it's magical and amazing.
Right. Yeah.
So
yeah. Well, he sounds
I've
brilliant.
actually really enjoyed this book.
What a privilege to have him at your both your births as well. That's amazing.
And to see them all the way through. Yes,
Yeah.
they were very
Oh,
sad
great.
on their 18th birthdays when they didn't get to go to Dr. Sears anymore.
That is brilliant.
Oh,
That's great.
yes.
And what about one tip then for living with more energy and vitality?
Okay. Is there a particular tech wellness way that you want me to talk about here?
Well, I mean, I've always been really interested in the distraction stuff. You've obviously come up with a lot of tips for distraction already. Certainly that I, the stuff that resonates with me is kind of turning off for a particular day. Sometimes I just escape the screens, as I like to call it, for a couple of hours, and that really helps as well.
Like I said earlier, an hour, a daily, which is maybe a half an hour or an hour a day unplug, a weekly, which is maybe an entire day, or a monthly unplug, can be so beneficial in so many ways, just to help you to reconnect to your loved ones, to your friends, and to the earth.
Yeah.
I think that's a great energetic tip.
Yeah.
Also,
when do you reconnect? Do you switch phones off in the evening or?
Well, we like as a family to do every Saturday.
Yeah.
And during the day, I will very intentionally not have my phone for at least an hour anywhere in sight, not be on the computer for at least an hour.
Yeah.
And it's magic. It's just the ultimate in self-care.
And just the last thing that I wanted to ask you about, I actually have a feeling that we could talk for so long because I'm just such a geek about this stuff. No, we'll have to do another one. Are you up for doing another one in a few months'
Absolutely
time?
love it.
Because
I'm really loving it. To speak with you.
Oh no, it's a pleasure to speak with you as well. And there's loads more stuff I could ask you. But have you heard of this light phone?
Yes.
The light phone. That's interesting, isn't it?
Yes, I love the idea. And I spoke to the creator about a year ago and talked to him about the EMF. And he said to me then, August, I'm sorry, there isn't lower EMF. It's just the idea of not being so distracted by our phone, not being able to do so much on a phone. So I love that idea.
Okay.
And I hope that they're working toward some way where they can reduce the EMF as well.
Okay, that's interesting. So for people who don't know, the light phone is a phone that strips back kind of all the added on bits that you get on a smartphone now, and you can really just make calls, texts.
Yes.
I think you can use maps, and that's pretty much it.
So it's like a beautiful flip phone, and it is beautiful, and it's actually small, right? It's much smaller than a regular phone, so that in and of itself is less distracting. So, and it doesn't have a camera. I don't believe it has a camera, and so I think that anything that we can do to not be so enticed. You were talking earlier about addictions and how not all the app developers, but clearly there's a great understanding of what makes our technology so appealing. And it's that dopamine rush, the colors, the excitement, the notification that somebody liked something that you put up. This is all very intentional to keep us really in touch with that particular app and wanting it more, and eventually to, probably advertise to us or to collect our information or to just want to talk to us more. So knowing that anything that can take us away from that, like I said, eliminating from the front of your phone all of your apps, just moving them to another page, putting a lovely reminder. So when you see your phone, you understand that it's for you, not to be enticed by all these other things. And I said something a while back. It's like your phone was designed to make your life easier.
Yeah.
When it stops feeling that way, put it down. And that can be, you feel like your privacy was invaded. You feel like you were distracted. You feel like the energy was interfering with your body's energy. There are so many good reasons to put your technology down and give yourself a break.
Yeah. So the light phone obviously is, people think that's doing part of it, but you're not that happy with the electromagnetic fields that are coming from that.
Honestly, it was about a year ago when I asked them, because I was very excited about it. And I said, does it have lower EMF? And he said, not at this point.
Right.
Because to make a connection to, that's how wireless energy works.
Yeah.
It emits radiation. So,
because there's another phone that I got sent called the Mudita. Yeah, which someone sent me today. Now they say they've got ultra low SAR. I have no idea what that means, but apparently that's something to do with the emissions, right?
Yes, Cassia, one of the creators, is sending me all of her research. I was at an EMF conference and they had a booth there, but they didn't have a sample of the phone.
Okay.
So I think we're going to find out when it's actually created. But she does have research I'm looking into, because of course I'm so excited about that as well. Yeah. I hope that it works.
That's brilliant. So it's I'm very impressed that everything I've brought up today, all about, including the Mudita. It's almost getting dark here, as you can probably see, because we're doing this on video. So I need to go and put my blue blockers on. August,
please do, and give that baby a kiss.
Oh, I will. Yeah, thank you very much. And where can people find out all the stuff that we've talked about today, and I know so much more content as well?
Well, you can follow me like you do on Instagram at Tech Wellness. I'm Facebook at Tech Wellness, and the site is techwellness.com.
That's it. Thank you to August, and thank you for listening to Zestology. I'm still walking down by the river. These podcasts, recording them in winter is quite a cold matter, because in summer I can just walk around and record the podcasts, and I like to record the podcasts out and about when possible. I just think it's nice to get out of the studio and into nature. But unfortunately, my large warm puffer jacket has a bit of an annoying rustle to it that comes out very loudly on the podcast. So when I come out and record the podcast intros, I walk down to the river from my house, and in one hand I'm holding the microphone recorder, which is a Marantz with a little fluffy thing on top to stop the wind blowing too much. And then I've got no jacket on, but a jumper and a beanie hat. It's keeping me warm enough anyway. Now listen, next week is the last podcast of the year. It is a year in review on Zestology, and some highlights or lowlights, depending on how you want to look at it. I'll modestly say highlights, I think, or medium lights. And that is the last podcast of the year. There's going to be some special surprises in there, and I hope you can join me next week for the final podcast of the year. And a quick reminder that this podcast is brought to you by something which is very nice at this time of year. Probably my favourite hack at the moment, the Sunlightened Sauna. Spending loads of time in it right now because, as we know, it's cold outside, and it's a really lovely way to heat up, detox, and as it turns out, increase your lifespan as well. I was listening to, I don't like to recommend other podcasts too much on this podcast because I don't want you to veer too far away from Zestology, but if I listen to a good one, I'll recommend it to you. And Dr. Rhonda Patrick recorded a whole podcast about sauna use and how good it is for heart health. And she was talking about this, you might want to check that podcast out. And she was talking about this Finnish study where a load of men were followed over a 30-year period, and there were only two preconditions to them being in the study. Firstly, it had to be men. I don't know why, but it had to be men. And secondly, they had to have one indicator for cardiac disease. So they didn't have to have any kind of heart problem, but they had to have an indicator for it, maybe a genetic indicator, or they were overweight or whatever. And they followed their use in the sauna, and they found that those who used the sauna every day were over 60% less likely to die from heart disease afterwards. Isn't that amazing? This sauna use cut in by more than half your risk of dying from heart disease. There was loads of other stuff based on Alzheimer's and overall health and other types of cardiac disease, cholesterol and triglycerides as well. And all this is real hard scientific evidence, and that Finnish study in particular was a big study. So interesting podcast. on Rhonda Patrick's. I didn't agree with absolutely everything in the podcast, but I very much enjoyed it, and I'd heartily recommend it to you. And Sunlight and Saunas as well. And if you look up Sunlight and Saunas online, you'll find them very easily. It's lovely. I know I've told you before, but it has got Netflix in there as well, or you can meditate in there. And if you mention Zestology, you can get £200 or $200 off. There's a very loud plane and a train go past at the same time. That's it for Zestology. Review of the year, final podcast of the year coming next week, and then some surprises and treats for the start of 2020 as well. I always like to do some extra stuff at the start of 2020, because I think the time, ever since I started bringing out audiobooks about 15 years on iTunes, I noticed from Christmas Day there's a spike in sales, and from New Year's Day there's a massive spike. People are looking for a little extra inspiration at the start of the year, and maybe it's too many Quality Street, or maybe it's just the start of a new year and a new diary and a new calendar and all the rest of it. But I'll see you then, and in the meantime, have a good week.